The empty mailbox stares back at me like a gaping wound. I check the tracking number for the fourth time today, my fingers trembling as I scroll through the delivery confirmation on my phone. Delivered to recipient, it reads, timestamped at 2:47 p.m. yesterday. But the graduation invitations I've been waiting 3 weeks for are nowhere to be found. 25 elegant cream-colored envelopes with gold embossing, each one representing someone I wanted to share the most important day of my life with. Gone. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. My name is Jessica Parker, and in exactly 18 days, I'm supposed to walk across the stage at Northwestern University to receive my bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering. It's been a journey that started 5 years ago when I was the first person in my family to even apply to college, let alone get accepted into one of the most competitive programs in the country. Growing up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, education wasn't exactly a priority in the Morrison household. My mother, Linda Morrison, worked double shifts at the local diner and had strong opinions about people who thought they were too good for honest work. My stepfather, Rick Morrison, spent most evenings in his recliner with a beer, making comments about how college was just a way for rich kids to avoid real responsibility. My half-sister, Brittany, 2 years younger than me, had already dropped out of community college twice and seemed perfectly content working part-time at the mall while living in our childhood bedroom. But I was different. Maybe it was my biological father's influence, even though he'd left when I was 7. He used to tell me stories about scientists and inventors, about people who changed the world through knowledge and persistence. Those stories planted seeds that my family spent years trying to uproot. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, the guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, pulled me aside. "Jessica, you have something special. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." She helped me navigate scholarship applications, financial aid forms, and college admissions processes that might as well have been written in a foreign language to my family. The day my Northwestern acceptance letter arrived, I remember holding it in my hands, reading it over and over until the words blurred through my tears. Full academic scholarship, room and board covered, my ticket to a different life. Mom's reaction was lukewarm at best. "Well, I suppose it's good you won't be a financial burden," she said, barely looking up from her crossword puzzle. These past 4 years in Chicago have been the best of my life. I've thrived in ways I never imagined possible. My roommate, Sarah Chen, became the sister I never had, staying up late with me during finals week and celebrating every small victory along the way. Professor Williams, my research advisor, saw potential in me that I'm still learning to see in myself. The lab became my sanctuary, a place where hard work and intelligence were valued above everything else. My research on biocompatible materials for cardiac implants caught the attention of several medical device companies. 3 job offers arrived before graduation, each one representing more money than my family had ever seen. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. But success came with its own complications. Every phone call home seemed to widen the gap between who I'd become and who my family expected me to remain. When I mentioned my research being published in a medical journal, Mom's response was, "That's nice, honey. Brittany got promoted to assistant manager at the store." When I talked about my job offers, Rick would grunt something about people getting too big for their britches. The distance wasn't just geographical anymore. It was philosophical, emotional, fundamental. I'd changed, and they resented every inch of that transformation. Still, they were my family. When it came time to plan my graduation ceremony, I wanted them there. I needed them to see what my daughter had accomplished, to understand that this wasn't about thinking I was better than them. It was about becoming the best version of myself. 3 weeks ago, I called Mom to discuss graduation plans. For once, the conversation went better than expected. She seemed genuinely interested in coming to Chicago for the ceremony, asking about hotels and what to wear. Brittany even got on the phone, sounding more excited than I had heard her in years. "I'm so proud of you, Jess. Brittany said, and I could hear tears in her voice. I know I never went the college route, but seeing what you've accomplished, it's incredible. Even Rick participated in the conversation, offering to drive everyone up in his pickup truck. Might be nice to see the big city. And I suppose you've heard a celebration. The warmth in their voices gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, we could bridge the gap that had been growing between us. Maybe graduation could be the moment that brought us back together as a family. I decided to order proper invitations rather than just sending a text or email. Something tangible they could hold on to. Something that showed this moment mattered to me and that they mattered to me. I spent hours on the university's graduation website customizing each invitation with care. Elegant script font, cream cardstock with the Northwestern logo embossed in gold. I even added a personal note to each one. For Mom, thank you for always believing I could do anything I set my mind to. For Rick, thank you for showing me the value of hard work and determination.
For Brittany, thank you for being my sister and my biggest cheerleader. 25 invitations total, Mom, Rick, and Brittany. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who used to quiz me on homework when I was in high school. My high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, who first suggested I consider engineering. Sarah's parents, who'd basically adopted me as a second daughter during college. Professor Williams and 3 other faculty members who'd been instrumental in my success. Friends from my research lab. My study group, even my favorite barista from the coffee shop where I'd spent countless hours working on assignments. Each invitation represented a relationship that had shaped me, supported me, or inspired me along this journey. I wanted to share this moment with everyone who'd helped make it possible. The invitations were supposed to arrive at my apartment yesterday. I'd taken the afternoon off from my part-time job at the campus bookstore specifically to be home when they were delivered. I had plans to write personal notes in each one, address them carefully, and get them in the mail by the weekend. But the package never came. At least, not to me. After calling the Postal Service twice and getting transferred to 3 different departments, I finally reached someone who could give me specific delivery information. The package had been delivered to 847 Maple Street in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, my childhood home address, my mother's house. My hands shake as I dial Mom's number. She answers on the 3rd ring, her voice unusually cheerful. Hi, honey. How are you doing? Mom, did you receive a package addressed to me yesterday? A pause. Too long. A package? I don't think so. What kind of package? My graduation invitations. They were supposed to be delivered to my apartment, but the tracking shows they went to your house instead. Another pause. Oh, those. Yes, they came here. I was wondering what they were. Relief floods through me. A simple mistake. Okay, can you just put them back in the mail and send them to my Chicago address? I have the correct address labels in my room if you need. Actually, Jessica, we need to talk about that. The tone shift is immediate and unmistakable. The warmth from our conversation 3 weeks ago evaporates, replaced by something cold and sharp. What do you mean? Brittany opened the package by mistake. She thought it might be something for her since it came to the house. When we saw what they were, we realized there was a misunderstanding. My stomach drops. What kind of misunderstanding? We never actually said we were coming to your graduation, honey. I think you misheard us during that phone call. Rick's back's been acting up, and I can't get the time off work, and Brittany has her manager training that weekend. The words hit me like physical blows. Mom, you asked about hotels? You talked about what to wear? Rick offered to drive. We were just being polite, making conversation. You seemed so excited about it, and we didn't want to hurt your feelings right then. The room starts to spin. I grip the edge of my desk chair, trying to process what I'm hearing. Mom, even if you can't come, I need those invitations. They're for other people too. Sarah's parents, my professors, friends from school. About that, she interrupts. Brittany looked through them and honestly, Jessica, we're a little hurt. The things you wrote, "Thank you for always believing I could do anything." I've never said that to you, and certainly Rick never talked to you about determination. It's like you're making up some fantasy version of our relationship. The accusation stuns me into silence. And some of the people on your list, professors and such, do you really think they care about coming to your little graduation ceremony? They probably get invited to dozens of these things. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Those are my invitations, I finally managed to say. You had no right to open them, and you certainly have no right to keep them. Brittany already threw most of them away, Mom says, her voice taking on that familiar edge I remember from childhood arguments. She said they were pretentious and embarrassing. Honestly, Jessica, we're trying to save you from humiliating yourself. The phone slips in my sweaty palm. You threw them away? The whole thing was just too much, too fancy, too unlike the family you come from. Maybe it's better this way. You can just walk across that stage, get your diploma, and move on with your life without all this drama.
A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. I hang up without saying goodbye, my hands trembling so violently I can barely set the phone down. 25 invitations, weeks of planning, hundreds of dollars I'd saved for my part-time job. Gone. But more than that, the message is crystal clear. My family doesn't just refuse to celebrate my success, they actively want to sabotage it. I sit in the silence of my apartment for what feels like hours, staring at my phone as if willing it to ring with an apology, an explanation, anything that might make sense of what just happened. The afternoon sun streams through my window, casting long shadows across the floor where I'd planned to spread out the invitations, carefully writing personal notes to each recipient. My chest feels tight, like someone has wrapped steel bands around my ribs and is slowly tightening them. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life. In 18 days, I'll achieve something no one in my family has ever accomplished. I should be celebrating, sharing this moment with people who matter to me. Instead, I'm sitting alone in an empty apartment, trying to understand how the people who raised me could be so deliberately cruel. The tears come suddenly and violently. Not the gentle tears of disappointment, but the kind of sobbing that shakes your entire body. I bury my face in my hands, letting 4 years of suppressed emotions pour out. Every snide comment about my fancy education, every eye roll when I try to share my excitement about research breakthroughs, every time they made me feel guilty for wanting more than what Cedar Rapids had to offer. Sarah finds me an hour later, curled up on the couch with mascara streaked down my cheeks. She drops her backpack by the door and immediately sits beside me, pulling me into a hug without asking questions. "What happened?" she asks gently, handing me tissues from the box on our coffee table. I tell her everything, my voice breaking as I describe the phone call with Mom. Sarah's expression grows darker with each detail. "They threw them away?" she asks, incredulous. "Your graduation invitations?" "Most of them, according to my mom. Brittany thought they were pretentious and embarrassing." Sarah stands up abruptly, pacing to the window. "Jessica, that's not normal family behavior. That's sabotage." "Maybe they're right," I whisper. "Maybe I was being pretentious. Maybe I was setting myself up for disappointment." Sarah whirls around, her eyes fierce. "Are you kidding me? You worked your ass off for 4 years. You're graduating summa cum laude with a degree in biomedical engineering. You have 3 job offers before you even graduate. You deserve to celebrate that with anyone you want to invite." But even Sarah's support can't quiet the voice in my head that sounds suspiciously like my mother. "Who do you think you are?" That evening, I call the house again. This time, Brittany answers. "Oh, hey, Jess," she says, her tone artificially casual. "How's it going?" You know how it's going, Brittany. I need you to tell me exactly what happened to my invitations. A pause. Look, I'm sorry about the confusion, but honestly, I did you a favor. How is throwing away my graduation invitations doing me a favor? Because they were embarrassing, Jessica. Like, seriously embarrassing. You thanked Mom for always believing you could do anything? Mom has spent the last 4 years worried you were going to flunk out and come crawling home. And that note to Rick, he doesn't even remember half the conversations you think you had with him. The casual cruelty in her voice stops me cold. So, you just decided for me? I looked at your list, Jess. Professor this, professor that, Sarah's parents who you barely know, your boss from some coffee shop. It was desperate, like you were trying to fill seats just to make it look like people cared. Those people do care. Sure they do. That's why you had to send them formal invitations instead of just, mentioning it like a normal person. I realize this conversation is pointless. Brittany has convinced herself she was protecting me from embarrassment, when really she was protecting herself from feeling left out of a world she couldn't understand. Where are the invitations now? Gone. I threw them in the dumpster behind the diner where Mom works. They're probably already at the landfill. All of them? Well, Brittany hesitates. I kept a couple, just to show Mom and Rick what I was talking about. They're in my room somewhere.
I need you to find them and overnight them to me. Jessica, that's not going to happen. Mom and Rick agree with me that this whole thing got out of hand. You're taking a simple graduation ceremony and turning it into some kind of production. It's my graduation, Brittany, the biggest accomplishment of my life. And that's exactly the problem, she snaps, her artificial sweetness finally dropping away. Everything with you is the biggest this or the most important that. You act like you're the first person who ever went to college. You act like you're so much better than the rest of us just because you can memorize some textbooks. I have never said I was better than anyone. You don't have to say it. It's in everything you do. The way you talk now with all your fancy words, the way you describe your little experiments like you're curing cancer, the way you couldn't just call and say, "Hey, I'm graduating," like a normal person, but had to send out these formal invitations like you're royalty or something. The pain in her voice catches me off guard. Under the cruelty, there's hurt, real hurt. And suddenly, I understand what this is really about. You're angry that I left? I say quietly. I'm angry that you left and never looked back. I'm angry that you come home for Christmas and spend the whole time talking about your amazing professors and your brilliant research and your wonderful roommate. I'm angry that you made it sound like everything here, everyone here, wasn't good enough for you anymore. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. And now you want us to drive up to Chicago and sit in some fancy auditorium and clap for you like proud parents while you collect your trophy for escaping us? The line goes quiet for a long moment. I never wanted to escape you, I finally say. I wanted to make you proud. Well, congratulations, you've made us feel small instead. She hangs up. Over the next 3 days, the calls begin. Not from my immediate family, but from everyone else. Aunt Carol, Mom's sister, calls to express concern about my attitude. Apparently, Mom has been telling people I've become difficult and demanding since going to college, and the graduation invitation situation is just the latest example of my unrealistic expectations. Your mother is heartbroken, Aunt Carol informs me. She's been crying for days, saying she doesn't know where she went wrong raising you. My high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Henderson, calls next. Jessica, your mother reached out to me. She's worried about you. She says you've been making demands and threatening the family over some graduation invitations. The way she phrases it makes me sound unstable, manipulative. I try to explain what actually happened, but Mrs. Henderson's tone suggests she's already chosen sides. Honey, I know college can change people and not always for the better. Maybe it's time to remember where you come from and who supported you before you had all these new friends.
Even my childhood neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who I'd planned to invite, calls to decline before I've even had a chance to explain the situation. Your mother mentioned you might reach out about your graduation, dear. I'm flattered, but I think family occasions should stay within the family, don't you? By Thursday evening, I realize what's happening. Mom isn't just refusing to support my graduation, she's actively campaigning against it. She's reached out to people in Cedar Rapids, painting me as an ungrateful daughter who's forgotten her roots. The narrative she's crafting is that I've become arrogant and demanding, that I'm trying to force people to celebrate something they don't understand or care about. The most painful call comes from Mr. Rodriguez, my high school chemistry teacher. Unlike the others, he sounds genuinely conflicted. Jessica, I got a call from your mother yesterday. She seemed very upset. She said you've been struggling with the stress of graduation and that you've been making unreasonable demands on family members. Mr. Rodriguez, that's not what happened. They stole my graduation invitations and threw them away. A long pause. That seems extreme. Are you sure there wasn't some kind of misunderstanding? The doubt in his voice breaks my heart. This is a man who spent extra hours tutoring me, who wrote recommendation letters for my college applications, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And even he's questioning my version of events.
I wouldn't lie about something like this, I say quietly. Of course not, but sometimes when we're under a lot of stress, we can misinterpret situations. College graduation is a big transition. Maybe your family is just trying to help you manage expectations. After I hang up, I sit in my apartment feeling completely isolated. My own family has turned my hometown against me, and they've done it so skillfully that I'm starting to doubt my own memory of events. That night, I can't sleep. I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process the magnitude of what's happening. This isn't just about graduation invitations anymore. This is about my right to celebrate my own achievements, to define my own relationships, to exist as the person I've become rather than the person they want me to remain. If I let this go, if I just accept their sabotage and attend graduation alone, what message does that send? That their approval is more important than my self-respect? That I'll sacrifice my own happiness to maintain their comfort? That despite everything I've accomplished, they still have the power to make me feel small and ashamed? But if I fight back, what am I really fighting for? A ceremony that will last 3 hours? Invitations to people who might not even attend? Is it worth destroying my relationship with my family over a symbolic gesture? I think about the conversation with Brittany, the pain in her voice when she accused me of leaving them behind. Maybe I did change. Maybe I did become someone they don't recognize. But does that justify what they've done? Sarah finds me in the kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at my laptop screen. I've been researching graduation invitation companies, trying to figure out if it's even possible to get new invitations printed and mailed in time. "You're not giving up," she says. It's not a question. I don't know what I'm doing, I admit. Maybe they're right. Maybe this is all just ego and pride. Sarah sits across from me at our small dining table. "Can I tell you something? When my parents first met you sophomore year, my dad said something that stuck with me. He said, 'That girl has been fighting for her education her whole life. She deserves to be proud of what she's accomplished.' Your parents would say that. They understand education. They value achievement. My parents grew up poor too, Jessica. Poorer than your family. My grandmother cleaned offices to put my dad through college. He knows what it means to be the first in your family to make it this far." She reaches across the table and takes my hand. "You're not being arrogant or demanding. You're being normal. Normal people invite the important people in their lives to important events. Normal families support each other's achievements, even if they don't understand them. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm the problem?
Then why are there 3 companies trying to recruit you? Why did Professor Williams nominate you for the Dean's Award? Why do I see you staying late in the lab helping younger students with their projects? Jessica, the person your family is describing doesn't exist. They're tearing down a version of you they've created because the real you threatens their worldview. I look at my laptop screen, at the graduation invitation websites I've been browsing. Rush printing, overnight shipping, expedited processing. It's possible, barely, to get new invitations made and sent out in time. So, what do I do? You decide who you want to be, Sarah says, simply. The daughter who shrinks herself to make others comfortable, or the woman who stands up for her right to celebrate her own life. For the first time in 3 days, I know exactly what I need to do. Friday morning arrives with an email that changes everything. I'm sitting at my desk in the biomedical engineering lab, trying to focus on final data analysis for my senior project, when my phone chimes with a message from my university email account. Miss Parker, this is Dean Margaret Foster from the College of Engineering. I received a concerning phone call yesterday regarding your graduation status. Please stop by my office at your earliest convenience. MF. My blood turns to ice. I reread the message 3 times, my hands shaking as I hold my phone. A concerning phone call about my graduation status? There's only one person who could have made that call. I pack up my lab materials with mechanical precision and my mind racing through possibilities. What could my mother have possibly said to the dean? What lies has she told now? The walk to the administrative building feels endless. Each step echoes in the marble corridors as I make my way to Dean Foster's office, past awards displays and portraits of distinguished alumni. These halls have felt like home for 4 years. Now they feel foreign, threatening.
Dean Foster's secretary waves me in immediately. She's expecting you, dear. Dean Foster is a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind but sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She's been a role model for me since freshman year, one of the few female deans in the engineering college. Her office walls are covered with photos of female engineering graduates, a reminder of the barriers that have been broken and those still standing. Jessica, please sit down. Her voice is carefully neutral, the tone administrators use when they're trying not to reveal their position before hearing all the facts. I sit in the leather chair across from her desk, my back straight, hands folded in my lap. You wanted to see my graduation status? Dean Foster opens a file on her desk. I received a phone call yesterday from someone claiming to be your mother. She expressed concerns about your mental health and suggested that you might not be ready for graduation. The words hit me like a physical blow. My mental health? According to the caller, you've been exhibiting signs of paranoia and making unreasonable demands on family members. She suggested that the stress of graduation has caused you to become unstable and that you might benefit from delaying graduation to seek counseling. I sit in stunned silence for a moment, processing the calculated cruelty of this attack. My mother didn't just steal my invitations and turn my hometown against me. She tried to sabotage my graduation itself. Dean Foster? I say, my voice steady, despite the rage building inside me. I can assure you that I am mentally stable and absolutely ready for graduation. I believe this phone call was made maliciously by someone who doesn't want me to graduate. Dean Foster leans back in her chair, studying my face. That's quite an accusation, Jessica. Why would your own mother try to prevent your graduation? The question hangs in the air. How do I explain 4 years of family resentment, of cultural differences, of a mother who sees my success as a rejection of everything she is? How do I describe the psychology of a family that would rather sabotage than celebrate? Because she's afraid of who I've become, and she's willing to destroy my future to keep me small. Dean Foster is quiet for a long moment. her fingers steepled as she considers my words. Your academic record speaks for itself, Jessica. Summa cum laude, research awards, professor recommendations that describe you as one of the most dedicated students they've encountered. Nothing in your file suggests instability. Relief floods through me, but it's quickly replaced with anger. So you're not going to delay my graduation? Absolutely not. But I am going to ask what support you need. This situation sounds complicated. It is complicated, but I'm handling it. Dean Foster nods slowly. I'm going to make a note in your file about this incident. If anyone else calls with similar concerns, they'll be referred to me directly. Your graduation status is not in question. As I leave her office, something fundamental shifts inside me. The breaking point isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, crystalline clarity about who you are and what you're willing to accept. My mother crossed a line when she tried to interfere with my education. She declared war on my future, and now I'm going to fight back with everything I have. That afternoon, I do something I've never done before. I start documenting everything. I create a detailed timeline of events, starting with the phone call about the missing invitations and ending with Dean Foster's warning about the call to the university. I screenshot text messages, save voicemails, and write down every conversation I can remember verbatim. Sarah finds me at our kitchen table surrounded by printed emails and handwritten notes. "What's all this?" she asks, setting down groceries. "Evidence," I say without looking up. "Mom called the dean and tried to have my graduation delayed. She told them I was mentally unstable." Sarah drops into the chair across from me. "She what?" I show her the email from Dean Foster, watching Sarah's expression shift from confusion to horror to fury. "Jessica, this is insane. She's actually trying to sabotage your education." "I know, and I'm done pretending this is a normal family drama. This is systematic destruction, and I need to treat it like that." I've been researching graduation invitation companies all morning, comparing prices and rush delivery options. The cheapest option for 25 invitations with expedited printing and overnight shipping will cost me $400, money I had been saving for my security deposit on a post-graduation apartment. But this isn't about money anymore. This is about reclaiming my right to celebrate my own life. My phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize with a Chicago area code. "Is this Jessica Parker?" a warm voice asks. "Yes, this is Jessica."
Hi, Jessica. This is Dr. Rebecca Martinez from Northwestern's Alumni Relations. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. I got your number from the student directory. My heart skips. Has my mother reached the alumni office too? I wanted to reach out because we received some unusual communication about your upcoming graduation. Someone called yesterday claiming to be your mother, suggesting that you might not be participating in the ceremony due to personal issues. I close my eyes. Dr. Martinez, I can assure you that I am absolutely participating in graduation. I have no idea why someone would call and say otherwise. That's what I suspected. The caller seemed to have very limited knowledge about you or your academic achievements. When I mentioned your research awards, she seemed surprised. When I asked about your post-graduation plans, she had no idea you'd received job offers. Relief washes over me. So you knew the call was fraudulent. I suspected it immediately, but I wanted to reach out to you directly. Jessica, someone is actively working against you, and that concerns me. Is there anything the university can do to support you? The kindness in her voice nearly brings me to tears. Actually, there might be. I need to ask about graduation guest policies. Of course, what would you like to know? If someone claims to be my family and tries to attend graduation without an invitation, can they be removed? Dr. Martinez pauses. Yes, absolutely. Graduation is a private university event. Only invited guests with proper credentials are admitted. If you provide us with names and photos of people who should not be admitted, security can handle that. And if I need to change my emergency contact information, that can be done immediately through the student portal. Jessica, do you feel safe? The question catches me off guard. Do I feel safe?
Physically, yes. Emotionally, I feel like I'm under siege. I feel like someone is trying to control me from 300 miles away, I admit. That sounds exhausting. Have you considered reaching out to the Student Counseling Center? They have experience with family conflict during major life transitions. After I hang up, I sit with Dr. Martinez's suggestion. Part of me rejects the idea. Seeking counseling feels like admitting that my mother's claims about my mental health have some validity. But the rational part of my brain recognizes that I need strategies for dealing with this situation that go beyond my current approach of shocked outrage. Saturday morning, I make 3 calls that will change everything. The first call is to Aurora Printing, a company that specializes in rush graduation invitations. The customer service representative, Marcus, listens patiently as I explain my situation. "So you need 25 invitations designed, printed, and shipped by Monday?" he asks. "Tuesday at the latest. My graduation is next Friday." "That's cutting it close, but we can do it. Rush design fee is $150, rush printing is another $200, and overnight shipping will be $75. Total comes to $425. I give him my credit card information without hesitation. "When can I approve the design?" "I'll have the digital proof to you by this afternoon. If you approve it by 5 p.m., we can have everything printed Monday and shipped Tuesday morning." The second call is to Professor Williams, my research advisor. I've been debating whether to involve him in this situation, but I realize I need an adult advocate who understands both my academic achievements and the complexity of family dynamics. "Jessica, I'm glad you called. I've been meaning to check in. How are your graduation preparations going?" "Actually, Professor Williams, that's why I'm calling. I'm having some family issues that might affect graduation, and I wanted to make sure all my academic requirements are completely finalized." I give him an abbreviated version of events, focusing on the practical implications rather than the emotional damage. Professor Williams listens without interrupting. "Jessica, I want you to know that your graduation status is absolutely secure. You've completed all requirements with distinction. No one outside this university has any authority over your academic standing. I know that intellectually, but when your own family is working against you, it's hard to feel secure about anything. I understand. Let me ask you something. Do you remember our conversation freshman year about imposter syndrome?"
I smiled despite everything. "You told me that feeling like I didn't belong was evidence that I was pushing myself into new territory." "Exactly. And what you're experiencing now is the flip side of that. Your family's reaction to your success isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. You've grown beyond their understanding, and that threatens their worldview. So, what do? You celebrate your achievements with people who understand their value. You surround yourself with your chosen family, the people who see you clearly and support who you're becoming. And you remember that their inability to celebrate you says nothing about you and everything about them." The third call is the hardest. I dial the number for the Student Counseling Center, my pride warring with my recognition that I need professional guidance. "Northwestern Counseling Center, this is Amanda." "Hi, I'd like to schedule an appointment. I'm dealing with some family conflict around graduation." "Of course. We actually have a specialist who works with students experiencing family stress during major transitions. Dr. Chen has an opening Monday afternoon if that works for you." "That would be perfect." "Can I ask if this is an urgent situation? Are you in any immediate danger?" "No, physical danger. But I feel like I'm being psychologically attacked by people who are supposed to love me." "That sounds incredibly difficult. Dr. Chen will be able to help you develop coping strategies and healthy boundaries. In the meantime, is there anyone in your support network you can talk to?" "Yes, I have good friends here." "Excellent. Lean on them this weekend. And Jessica, you're taking the right steps by reaching out for support." After I hang up, I sit in the quiet of my apartment, feeling something I haven't felt all week. Hope. For the first time since this nightmare began, I'm not just reacting to my family's attacks, I'm building a proactive response. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah.
coffee and strategy session? My treat. I grab my jacket and head out to meet her, leaving behind the documentation and research spread across my kitchen table. Tomorrow, I'll continue building my case and my support network. But today, I'm going to let my chosen family remind me who I really am. The graduation invitation proof arrives in my email at 4:47 p.m. The design is elegant and simple, with Northwestern's logo embossed in gold and my name printed in classic serif font. But it's the text that makes me smile. Jessica Parker requests the honor of your presence at her graduation ceremony from Northwestern University, where she will receive her Bachelor of Science degree in Biomedical Engineering summa cum laude. I approved the design at 4:52 p.m., 8 minutes before the deadline. The war isn't over, but I've fired my first shot. Tuesday morning arrives with a package on my doorstep. My new graduation invitations, pristine and perfect. I'm admiring the elegant gold embossing when my phone explodes with notifications. 5 missed calls from unknown numbers, 3 voicemails, and a string of text messages from people I haven't heard from in years. The first voicemail is from my high school lab partner, Jenny Walsh. Hey, Jessica, your sister called me yesterday asking for your Chicago address. She said you're having some kind of breakdown and they need to do an intervention. I didn't give it to her, but I wanted you to know she's asking around. My blood runs cold. I check the other messages quickly. Similar calls to my high school friends, former classmates, even teachers. Brittany is conducting a systematic campaign to gather information about my life in Chicago using my supposed mental health crisis as justification. The second voicemail is from Mrs. Patterson, my elderly neighbor from Cedar Rapids. Jessica, dear, your mother came by yesterday very upset. She showed me some emails you supposedly sent threatening the family. I've known you since you were 12, and this doesn't sound like you. But your mother seemed genuinely frightened. Please call me. I sink onto my couch, the new invitations scattered around me. Threatening emails? I've never sent any such thing. But if Mom is showing evidence to neighbors, she's either fabricating messages or manipulating the context of our conversations. The third voicemail makes my hands shake. Ms. Parker, this is Detective Morrison from the Cedar Rapids Police Department. We received a complaint about harassing communications. Please call me at your earliest convenience to discuss this matter. A police complaint. My own mother filed a police complaint against me.
I call Detective Morrison immediately, my voice steady despite the panic coursing through my veins. Detective Morrison, this is Jessica Parker returning your call. Miss Parker, thank you for calling back. I need to ask you about some communications with your family members. Your mother filed a complaint claiming you've been sending threatening messages about their personal property. Detective, I haven't sent any threatening messages. What exactly is she claiming? According to the complaint, you've demanded they return certain items to you and made threats about legal action if they don't comply. She provided screenshots of text messages. Those would be about my graduation invitations, which they stole from my mail and threw away. I never made any threats. I asked for my property back. A pause. Your graduation invitations? Yes. They intercepted a package addressed to me containing invitations to my college graduation. When I asked for them back, they admitted to throwing them away. And these invitations were addressed to you personally? Yes, with my name and my Chicago address. They were delivered to my childhood home by mistake, and instead of forwarding them, my family opened them and destroyed them. Detective Morrison's tone shifts slightly. That would actually constitute mail tampering, which is a federal offense. Do you have documentation of the delivery? I walk to my laptop, pulling up the tracking information. Yes, I have the shipping receipts and delivery confirmation showing they were sent to my address but delivered to theirs. Miss Parker, I'm going to be honest with you. This sounds like a civil family dispute rather than a criminal matter. Your mother's complaint seems to be based on misrepresenting normal communication about property return. I'll be closing this case, but I'd recommend documenting everything in case this escalates. After hanging up, I sit in stunned silence. Not only did my mother try to get me arrested, but she's so unfamiliar with actual criminal behavior that she accidentally reported herself for a federal crime. My phone rings again. This time, it's Professor Williams. Jessica, I just got off a very strange phone call. Someone claiming to be your mother called the engineering department asking about policies for revoking degrees due to student misconduct. She what? She seemed to think that if you were charged with a crime, the university would revoke your degree, even after graduation. When I explained that's not how academic credentials work, she became quite agitated and hung up. The systematic nature of the attack becomes clear. Mom isn't just trying to sabotage my graduation, she's trying to destroy my entire future. Job offers, degree, reputation, everything I've worked for. But there's something desperate about the escalation that tells me she's running out of legitimate avenues. When you resort to false police reports and calls to academic departments, you've moved beyond rational opposition into complete panic. Wednesday brings a new level of psychological warfare. I'm in my advanced materials lab when Sarah texts me urgently. Someone's been calling our landlord claiming you're dangerous and shouldn't be living in student housing. I step outside the lab to call her back. What exactly did they say? Mrs. Rodriguez called me this morning. She said someone claiming to be your mother called saying you've been making threats against family members and that she's concerned about the safety of other tenants. She wanted to know if we've had any problems with you acting erratically. What did Mrs. Rodriguez say? She laughed. She said in 2 years, the only complaint she's ever had about you is that you're too quiet and you always pay rent early. But Jessica, this is getting scary. They're trying to destroy your housing, your education, your reputation. What's next? That afternoon, I find out. Dr. Martinez from Alumni Relations calls with grim news. Jessica, I wanted to give you a heads up. Someone has been calling alumni who donated to the biomedical engineering program, claiming you've been engaged in unethical research practices and suggesting they withdraw their support. My knees go weak. Are you serious? Unfortunately, yes. They've been quite specific, mentioning your cardiac implant research and claiming you've been falsifying data. Of course, anyone who knows anything about research would recognize these as baseless accusations, but some donors don't have technical backgrounds. Have any donors actually withdrawn support?
Not yet, but I've had to spend the morning making calls to reassure people and explain that these allegations are completely false. Jessica, this level of targeted harassment is beyond normal family conflict. Have you considered involving law enforcement? I tried. They said it's a civil matter. This might be beyond local police. What your family is doing could constitute cyberstalking or harassment across state lines, which would make it a federal issue. That evening, I sit in the student counseling center across from Dr. Chen, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a calm demeanor that makes me feel immediately safe. "Tell me what's been happening," she says simply. I start with the stolen invitations and find myself pouring out the entire saga. The false police report, the calls to my university, the attempts to sabotage my housing and reputation. Dr. Chen listens without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Jessica, what you're describing is a pattern of behavior called family scapegoating. You've become successful in ways that threaten your family's worldview, so they're trying to tear you down to restore their sense of equilibrium. Is this normal? It's more common than you might think, especially in families where education or success is seen as betrayal rather than achievement. The question is, how do you want to respond? I don't know. Part of me wants to fight back harder. Part of me wonders if I should just give up and attend graduation alone. What would giving up accomplish? Peace, maybe. If I stop fighting, maybe they'll stop attacking. Dr. Chen leans forward slightly. In your experience with your family, has backing down ever actually led to peace? I think about the years of making myself small to avoid conflict, of downplaying my achievements to spare their feelings, of apologizing for succeeding. No, it just made them more demanding. What you're experiencing is called an extinction burst. When someone's usual control tactics stop working, they escalate dramatically before eventually giving up. Your family is throwing everything they have at you because you've stopped responding to their smaller manipulations. So what do I do? You maintain your boundaries, document everything, and remember that their behavior says nothing about you and everything about their own insecurities. Most importantly, you surround yourself with people who celebrate your success rather than try to diminish it. Thursday morning, I wake up with a clarity I haven't felt in weeks. Instead of just defending against my family's attacks, it's time to go on the offensive. My first move is to create a comprehensive email to everyone who matters in my academic and professional life. The subject line reads, "Personal update regarding upcoming graduation." The email is professional, factual, and devastating. Dear colleagues, professors, and friends, I want to make you aware of a situation that may affect communications over the next week. I am currently dealing with family members who oppose my graduation and have been making false reports to various institutions and individuals in an attempt to sabotage the ceremony. If you receive any communications claiming I am mentally unstable, engaged in unethical behavior, or otherwise unfit for graduation, please know these allegations are entirely false. I have documented evidence of mail theft, false police reports, and systematic harassment that I am prepared to share if necessary. I remain fully committed to participating in graduation and beginning my career as planned. Thank you for your continued support. Best regards, Jessica Parker. I send this email to Professor Williams, Dean Foster, Dr. Martinez, my potential employers, and key professors who have supported me throughout college. Within 2 hours, I receive a dozen responses offering support and additional protection. Professor Williams calls me directly. Jessica, this email is exactly the right approach. You're controlling the narrative instead of letting them define it. I forwarded your message to the department head and the graduate coordinator. Everyone in engineering is now aware of the situation. My second strategic move is to contact the 3 companies that have offered me jobs. I send a modified version of the email to each HR department explaining the situation and asking them to disregard any negative communications from my family members. The response from Meridian Medical Devices is swift and supportive. Jessica, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We want to assure you that our job offer stands regardless of any family conflict. In fact, your proactive communication about this difficult situation demonstrates exactly the kind of professionalism and integrity we value.
My third move is the most satisfying. I call the Cedar Rapids Police Department and ask to speak with Detective Morrison again. Detective, this is Jessica Parker. I wanted to follow up on yesterday's conversation about the mail tampering issue. Yes, Ms. Parker, what can I do for you? I've been thinking about your suggestion to document everything. It occurs to me that intercepting and destroying mail addressed to someone else is indeed a federal crime, regardless of family relationships. Would you be able to provide me with a report number for the incident so I can refer it to postal investigators? A pause. You want to press charges against your family for mail tampering? I want to establish a paper trail. If they're willing to file false police reports against me, I need to protect myself with accurate documentation of what actually occurred. Yes, I can provide you with a report number. Let me look into the federal reporting requirements for mail crimes. Within an hour, Detective Morrison calls back with information about filing a complaint with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. I don't actually intend to pursue federal charges against my family, but having the option documented gives me leverage if their harassment continues. My final strategic move is to contact a lawyer. Sarah's father recommends a family attorney in Chicago who specializes in harassment cases. Attorney Michael Thompson listens to my story with the detached professionalism of someone who has heard worse. Ms. Parker, what you're describing could constitute several different legal violations: harassment, cyberstalking, interference with business relationships, and yes, Mail tampering. The question is whether you want to pursue legal action or simply establish a paper trail for protection. Right now, I just want them to stop, but I need to know what my options are. I can draft a cease and desist letter that outlines the specific behaviors that need to stop and the potential legal consequences if they continue. Sometimes just receiving official legal communication is enough to make people reconsider their actions. How much would that cost? For a standard cease and desist letter, $500. But given that you're a graduating student dealing with family harassment, I'd be willing to do it for $200 if you can pay up front. I agree immediately. By Friday afternoon, I have a cease and desist letter ready overnight to my family, documenting every incident and making it clear that continued harassment will result in legal action. That evening, as I address the overnight envelope containing the legal letter, I feel something I haven't experienced in weeks: power. For the first time since this nightmare began, I'm not just reacting to their attacks, I'm setting the terms of engagement. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "We know where you live now. This isn't over." I screenshot the message, add it to my documentation file, and forward it to Attorney Thompson. Then I block the number and continue preparing for graduation. Tomorrow is Friday. In exactly 1 week, I'll walk across that stage whether my family approves or not. And for the first time, I'm starting to believe that might be exactly what I need. Friday arrives bright and clear, exactly 1 week before graduation. I'm sitting in my apartment reviewing my final presentation for senior design when the building security buzzer rings. My stomach drops. The only people who would show up unannounced are people I definitely don't want to see. "Jessica, there are 3 people here claiming to be your family. They say it's an emergency." I grab my phone and head downstairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the glass doors of the lobby, I see them: Mom, Rick, and Brittany, standing in an uncomfortable cluster on the sidewalk. Mom clutches her purse like a weapon. Rick shifts his weight from foot to foot, clearly out of his element in downtown Chicago. Brittany stares at the building with undisguised envy. I push through the doors, keeping the building entrance behind me as a clear escape route. "What are you doing here?" Mom's face immediately transforms into the concerned parent expression she's perfected over the years. "Madeline, we've been so worried about you. We drove all night to make sure you're okay." "I'm fine. You need to leave." "See?" Brittany says to Mom, her voice carrying that familiar edge. "I told you she'd be hostile. She's been completely brainwashed by these college people." Rick speaks for the first time, his voice gruff but uncertain. "Jess, we just want to talk. Your mother's been crying for days."
About what? About filing false police reports? About calling my university and trying to sabotage my graduation? About harassing my professors and landlord? Mom's mask slips for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. "We never harassed anyone. We were concerned about your mental state and reached out to people who care about you." By telling them I was dangerous and unstable, by claiming I sent threatening emails that don't exist. "You've been acting erratically ever since this graduation nonsense started," Mom snaps, her carefully modulated tone finally cracking. "Making demands, threatening legal action over some silly invitations." Those weren't silly invitations. They were my graduation invitations sent to me for the most important day of my life, and you stole them. Brittany steps forward, her face flushed with anger. "Everything is always about you, isn't it? Your big graduation, your fancy degree, your important day. What about Mom's feelings? What about how it makes us feel when you act like we're not good enough for your precious ceremony?" The raw pain in her voice stops me cold. For a moment, I see past the cruelty to the hurt underneath. But then she continues, and any sympathy I might have felt evaporates. "Do you know what people in town are saying about you? That you think you're too good for your family. That college turned you into someone who looks down on honest working people. You've embarrassed us, Jessica. And now you're trying to get Mom arrested over your stupid invitations?" "I didn't try to get anyone arrested. Mom filed a false police report against me." "Because you threatened us." "I asked for my property back. That's not a threat. That's a reasonable request."
Mom steps between us, her voice taking on that dangerous, quiet tone I remember from childhood arguments. We came here to give you one last chance to come to your senses. Forget about this elaborate graduation ceremony. Come home with us. Graduate quietly like a normal person, without all this drama and detention seeking. And if I don't? Then you're choosing them over us, she says, gesturing toward the building behind me. Your fancy professors and your entitled roommate and all these people who don't really know you. You're choosing strangers over the family that raised you. The ultimatum hangs in the air between us. Choose them or choose us. Shrink back to who you used to be or lose us forever. But as I look at their faces, Mom's manipulative righteousness, Rick's uncomfortable compliance, Brittany's wounded fury, I realize something profound. This isn't my family. This is a group of people who call themselves my family, but have spent the last 2 weeks systematically trying to destroy everything I care about. My real family is upstairs in our apartment, probably making coffee and getting ready to help me celebrate my achievement. My real family is Professor Williams, who saw potential in me when I couldn't see it myself. My real family is Dean Foster, who protected my graduation when my biological family tried to sabotage it. You're right, I say quietly. I am choosing them over you. Mom's face goes white, then red. You ungrateful little... I'm ungrateful? The words explode out of me with 4 years of suppressed frustration. I worked myself to exhaustion for this degree. I graduated summa cum laude from one of the best engineering programs in the country. I have 3 job offers before I even graduate. I have accomplished something incredible, and instead of being proud, you've spent 2 weeks trying to tear me down. We raised you. You fed me and housed me, but you never supported my dreams, never encouraged my ambitions, never celebrated my achievements. Sarah's parents have been more of a family to me in 4 years than you've been in 22. Rick tries to interject. Now, that's not fair. Isn't it? When I got into Northwestern, did you celebrate? When I made Dean's List, did you congratulate me? When I won research awards, did you even acknowledge them? Or did you make me feel guilty for achieving things you didn't understand? The silence stretches between us. Finally, Brittany speaks, her voice small and broken. We just don't know how to be proud of something we can't understand. We don't know how to celebrate achievements that make us feel stupid. For the first time in this entire confrontation, someone has told the truth. Then learn, I say gently. Instead of trying to tear me down to your level, let me help bring you up to mine. Come to my graduation. Be proud of what I have accomplished. Let me show you the world I've discovered. Mom shakes her head violently. It's too late for that. You've already chosen your side.
No, Mom. You've chosen yours. You chose sabotage over support. You chose destruction over celebration. You chose to file false police reports instead of just saying congratulations. I pull out my phone and show them the cease and desist letter that's being delivered to their house today. This letter documents every illegal thing you've done over the past 2 weeks. Mail tampering, filing false police reports, harassment, cyberstalking. If you contact me, my university, my professors, my employers, or anyone else in my life again, I will pursue full legal action. Mom's eyes widen as she reads the legal letterhead on my phone screen. You're threatening to sue your own family? I'm protecting myself from people who happen to share my DNA. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't try to sabotage each other's futures. Family doesn't file false police reports when they don't get their way. The confrontation might have continued, but Marcus, our security guard, approaches from behind me. Miss Parker, is everything okay here? I turn to him gratefully. These people need to leave the premises. They've been asked to go and have refused. Marcus, a former Chicago police officer who takes building security seriously,
looks at my family with professional assessment. Folks, this is private property. If the resident has asked you to leave, you need to comply or I'll have to call CPD. Rick holds up his hands. We're going. But Mom isn't finished. This isn't over, Jessica. You can't cut your family out of your life and expect no consequences. Watch me, I reply. They start walking toward their pickup truck, parked illegally in front of a fire hydrant. But before they reach it, Brittany turns back. Jess, wait. She approaches slowly, her face tear-streaked and uncertain. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the invitations, about all of it. I was jealous, okay? I was jealous that you got out and I didn't. I was jealous that you're smart and successful and I'm still working at the mall at 24. But I never wanted it to go this far. For a moment, I see my sister instead of my tormentor. The girl who used to build blanket forts with me. The teenager who covered for me when I stayed out past curfew. The young woman who could have been my ally instead of my enemy. Brittany, it's not too late. You could still go back to school. You could still... No, she interrupts. I tried twice and failed twice. I'm not like you. I don't have your brain or your drive. But I can stop making things worse. She pulls something from her purse, a cream-colored envelope with gold embossing. One of my original graduation invitations, slightly crumpled but intact. I kept this one. I was going to throw it away with the others, but I couldn't. It has your name on it in such beautiful letters, and when I saw how proud you looked when you talked about graduation, I couldn't destroy it completely. I take the invitation from her hands, my throat tight with emotion. Thank you, she says. I won't be at your graduation, she says quietly. I can't face you after everything I've done, but I wanted you to know that somewhere, underneath all the jealousy and anger, I am proud of you. I'm proud that my sister is brilliant and accomplished and strong enough to stand up to all of us. She turns and walks back to the truck before I can respond. Mom and Rick have already gotten in, their faces set in hard lines of defeat and resentment. As they drive away, I clutch the recovered invitation to my chest. The rest of the day unfolds like a gift. Professor Williams calls to confirm that he'll be attending graduation and bringing his wife. Sarah's parents arrive from San Francisco, treating me like the daughter they never had. Dr. Martinez sends an email confirming that enhanced security will be in place for the ceremony, ensuring that only invited guests with proper credentials will be admitted. But the most satisfying moment comes that evening when Attorney Thompson calls with news. Jessica, I wanted to update you on the cease and desist letter. Your family's attorney contacted me this afternoon. They have an attorney? Apparently, your mother consulted with someone after receiving the letter. Their attorney advised them that they have no legal standing and significant liability if they continue their current behavior. He recommended they cease all contact with you and anyone associated with you immediately. So they're backing down?
More than that. Their attorney is requiring them to sign agreements acknowledging that they engaged in harassment and mail tampering. It's basically a legal admission of wrongdoing that would make any future harassment case against them open and shut. It's really over? The harassment should be. Your mother's attorney made it clear that any further contact could result in serious legal consequences. You've won, Jessica. Saturday morning brings an unexpected phone call from Mrs. Patterson, my elderly neighbor from Cedar Rapids. Jessica, dear, I owe you an apology. Mrs. Patterson, you don't need to apologize for anything. Yes, I do. After your mother came by yesterday showing me those supposed threatening emails, I got curious. I've known you since you were 12 years old, and threatening people just isn't in your nature. What did you find? Well, I may be old, but I'm not stupid about technology. My grandson taught me about investigating things on the internet. I looked up those email headers your mother showed me, and they were fake. Completely fabricated. My blood chills. She created fake emails? Not just fake emails, she created an entire fake email account using your name and sent threatening messages to herself, then took screenshots to show people as evidence of your instability. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. It's one thing to steal mail or make false reports. It's another to manufacture evidence of crimes that never happened. Mrs. Patterson, would you be willing to document what you discovered? Already done, dear. I printed everything and put it in an envelope. I also called that nice detective Morrison and told him what I found. He seemed very interested in reopening the case, but this time investigating your mother for filing false reports based on fabricated evidence. I can't believe she went that far. I can. Your mother has always been controlling, but she's gotten worse since you left for college. She's been telling anyone who will listen that college corrupted you, that you've become ungrateful and disrespectful. But I think the truth is simpler than that. What do you mean? I think she's terrified that you've outgrown her, that you've become someone she can't control or manipulate. So she tried to tear you down to a size she could manage. After hanging up with Mrs. Patterson, I call Attorney Thompson with the new information. Jessica, this changes everything. Manufacturing fake evidence to support false police reports is a serious crime. We're talking about potential felony charges. I don't want to send my mother to prison. You don't have to do anything. Mrs. Patterson has already reported it to the police. But you should know that this validates everything you've been saying. No one can claim you're being dramatic or oversensitive when there's evidence of systematic evidence fabrication. That afternoon, I received the most unexpected call of all. It's from Cedar Rapids High School, specifically from the current principal, Dr. Angela Foster. Ms. Parker, I hope you don't mind me calling. Mrs. Henderson, your former guidance counselor, gave me your number. I wanted to personally invite you to be our commencement speaker next month. I'm sorry, what? We'd like you to speak to our graduating seniors about overcoming obstacles and pursuing higher education despite family or financial challenges. Mrs. Henderson told me about your situation, and honestly, your story is exactly what our students need to hear. You want me to speak at my old high school graduation? We want you to show our students that success isn't just possible, it's worth fighting for, even when the people closest to you don't understand. Will you consider it? I look around my apartment, at the graduation photos from high school on my bookshelf, at the Northwestern acceptance letter I've kept framed on my desk, at the job offer spread across my coffee table. Dr. Foster, I would be honored. As I hang up the phone, I realize something profound has happened. The family that tried to destroy me has inadvertently created something bigger than they could have imagined. My story of overcoming their sabotage has become an inspiration for others facing similar challenges. The girl who left Cedar Rapids 5 years ago feeling ashamed of wanting more is returning as a woman who fought for her dreams and won. And this time, I'm bringing reinforcements, a whole new generation of young people who will see that family loyalty doesn't require sacrificing your own potential. The war is over, and I didn't just survive it. I transformed it into victory. Graduation morning arrives with the kind of crisp Chicago spring weather that makes everything feel possible. I wake up naturally at 6 a.m., not from anxiety, but from pure anticipation. Today marks the culmination of 5 years of work, and for the first time since this ordeal began, I feel nothing but excitement. Sarah is already moving around the apartment, her energy infectious as she arranges the flowers she picked up yesterday. "Ready to become Jessica Parker, Northwestern graduate?" she asks, grinning as she hands me coffee in my favorite mug. My phone lights up with messages that fill my chest with warmth. Professor Williams sends a photo of him and his wife getting ready with the caption, "Honored to celebrate with you today." Dr. Martinez texts coordinates for where to meet the security team. Dean Foster confirms that my guest list has been finalized and verified. But the message that touches me most comes from Mrs. Patterson in Cedar Rapids. "Watching the live stream today, dear. Couldn't be prouder of our town's first biomedical engineer." At 9 a.m., Sarah's parents arrive from their downtown hotel, bringing an energy that transforms our small apartment into something that feels like a real family gathering. Dr. Helen Chen and Dr. James Chen have been more supportive of my academic journey than my own parents ever were, and their presence today feels like a gift. "We brought you something for your new career," Dr. Helen says, handing me a leather portfolio embossed with my initials. Inside is a card that reads, "To our honorary daughter who taught us what resilience looks like."
Professor Williams arrives next with his wife, carrying champagne and wearing the proudest smile I've ever seen from him. Today's the day, Jessica, ready to officially join the ranks of Northwestern engineers? As we gather in the living room before heading to campus, I look around at these faces and realize something profound. This is what celebration looks like when it comes from genuine love and respect. No underlying tension, no attempts to diminish the achievement, no conditions attached to the support. Just pure joy in someone else's success. The contrast with my biological family is striking, but no longer painful. I've learned that family isn't defined by DNA, but by who shows up when it matters. At the graduation venue, the enhanced security Dr. Martinez arranged is discreet but comprehensive. As we walk through the checkpoint, I feel a sense of safety I haven't experienced in weeks. This space is protected. This moment is mine. I spot classmates from my research lab, professors who challenged me to grow, study partners who became lifelong friends. Each face represents a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation or control. When they call my name, Jessica Marie Parker, Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering, summa cum laude, I walk across that stage with my head high, my chosen family cheering from the audience. Dean Foster hands me my diploma with a warm handshake and whispers, "You've earned this in every possible way." The celebration dinner that evening takes place at Sarah's favorite restaurant near campus, in a private dining room filled with the people who matter most. The conversations flowing around our table represent something I couldn't have imagined 3 weeks ago. Professor Williams and Dr. James Chen are discussing research opportunities in biomedical engineering. Sarah is showing photos from our 4 years together to Mrs. Williams, creating a visual story of our friendship. Dr. Helen Chen is giving career advice to younger students at nearby tables who recognize her from academic conferences. This is what healthy family dynamics look like. People supporting each other's growth, celebrating achievements without jealousy, building each other up rather than tearing each other down. During dinner, Dr. Martinez arrives with an unexpected surprise. A formal letter from Northwestern's president inviting me to join the Alumni Board of Advisors, specifically to help develop support systems for first-generation college students facing family resistance. She explains, "Your situation opened our eyes to a problem we didn't fully understand. We want your perspective on how to better support students in similar circumstances." The irony isn't lost on me. My family's attempts to sabotage my education have resulted in opportunities to help other students overcome similar obstacles. Their goal of keeping me small has led to a platform for creating systemic change. Professor Williams beams with pride. "Jessica, this is unprecedented. Alumni board positions usually go to graduates with decades of experience." Sometimes the most important expertise comes from lived experience rather than time, Dr. Helen Chen adds. You understand these challenges in ways that traditional academics might not.
As the evening winds down, I receive a text that surprises me. It's from Mr. Rodriguez, my high school chemistry teacher, who attended the ceremony. "Jessica, watching you graduate today reminded me why I became a teacher. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey." The message represents something significant. While my immediate family chose destruction over celebration, there are people from my past who understood what I was trying to accomplish and respected it. My mother's narrative didn't convince everyone. Walking back across campus after dinner, I'm struck by how different this feels from 3 weeks ago when I was sitting alone in my apartment, devastated by my family's betrayal. Tonight, I'm surrounded by love, armed with new opportunities and looking toward a future bright with possibility. Sarah links her arm through mine as we walk. "So, Senior Research Associate Parker, what's next?" First, I start my job at Meridian Medical Devices on Monday. Then I figure out how to help other students avoid what I went through. "And your family?" I consider the question. I hope someday they'll be ready for a relationship based on who I actually am rather than who they want me to be, but I'm not going to wait for that to happen before I live my life. The transformation is complete.
The girl who left Cedar Rapids 5 years ago feeling guilty for wanting more has become a woman who unapologetically pursues her dreams. The daughter who once apologized for her achievements now advocates for other students' right to celebrate theirs. My family's cruelty taught me something they never intended, that I'm stronger than I knew, that my worth isn't determined by their approval, and that the most beautiful revenge is building a life so fulfilling that their negativity becomes irrelevant. As we reach our apartment building, I look back at the Northwestern campus one last time as an undergraduate. Tomorrow, I begin my career in biomedical engineering. Next month, I'll speak at my old high school, hopefully inspiring students who feel trapped by their circumstances. But tonight, I'm simply Jessica Parker, Northwestern graduate, surrounded by people who love and support me exactly as I am. And that feels like the greatest achievement of all. 18 months after graduation, I'm sitting in my corner office at Meridian Medical Devices, reviewing the final designs for a revolutionary cardiac implant that could change thousands of lives. The walls display my Northwestern diploma, patent certificates, and a letter from the first student who received support through the program I helped create. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. High school speaking engagement, Cedar Rapids High School, 2 p.m. Today marks my return to my hometown, not as the ashamed girl who left 5 years ago, but as someone who fought for her dreams and won. The transformation has been remarkable. The Northwestern Alumni Board position led to establishing the First Generation Success Initiative, providing emergency financial support, specialized counseling, and mentorship for students whose families oppose their education. Last quarter alone, we helped 127 students navigate family conflicts while maintaining their academic goals. My work has gained national attention. Dr. Amanda Foster from the University of Illinois published research citing my case as a breakthrough in understanding educational mobility resistance, the phenomenon where families sabotage rather than celebrate academic achievement. The study revealed this affects nearly 40% of first-generation college students, making it far more common than anyone realized. But the most meaningful outcome has been personal. I've learned to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or fear. My chosen family has expanded beyond Sarah and her parents to include colleagues who celebrate my successes, mentees who inspire my growth, and friends who know my full story and love me anyway. My personal phone rings as I'm packing for the trip to Cedar Rapids. It's Brittany calling from Chicago, where she moved 6 months ago to attend nursing school. Nervous about going home? She asks. The relationship with my sister has been slowly rebuilding since she showed up at my apartment 8 months ago with a genuine apology and evidence of real change. She's pursuing healthcare education herself now, inspired by my path, but choosing her own version of it. A little, I admit, but mostly excited. These kids need to hear that family opposition doesn't have to mean giving up on your dreams. Mom and Rick know you're speaking today, Brittany says quietly. I saw Mom at the grocery store yesterday. She asked about you. What did you tell her? The truth, that you're successful, happy, and helping other students overcome the same obstacles she put in your way. I pause, considering this information. How did she react? She looked sad, I think. Maybe regretful, but she's not ready to admit she was wrong yet.
After hanging up, I reflect on the complex emotions surrounding my family. I no longer carry anger toward them, but I also don't wait for their approval to live my life. They made their choices. I made mine. Both of us have to live with the consequences. The drive to Cedar Rapids takes me through familiar Illinois farmland, past the landscapes of my childhood. But I'm not the same person who traveled this route 5 years ago with scholarship paperwork and big dreams. I'm someone who learned that achieving your goals is only half the battle. Protecting your right to celebrate them is equally important. At Cedar Rapids High School, I'm greeted by Principal Dr. Foster, no relation to my Dean Foster, and guided to the auditorium where 400 students wait. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm about to speak in the same building where I once felt trapped by limited expectations. Standing on that high school stage, looking out at faces that mirror my own uncertainty from years past, I share the lessons that could have saved me years of pain if someone had taught them to me earlier. Success isn't just about achieving your goals, I tell them. It's about maintaining your integrity while pursuing them. It's learning that your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to understand your dreams. I explain the difference between love and control, between families who support growth and those who demand conformity. Real love celebrates your achievements, even when they don't understand them. Anything else is control disguising itself as care. The most important lesson, I tell them, is about boundaries. Setting limits isn't cruel, it's essential. When I stopped apologizing for my success and started protecting my right to celebrate it, my relationships improved. The people who truly cared about me respected my boundaries. Those who didn't revealed themselves as people I needed to distance myself from. During the Q&A session, a young woman raises her hand. What if your family threatens to cut you off financially if you pursue your dreams? I answer honestly. Then you find another way. Scholarships, grants, part-time jobs, student loans, there are always alternatives. What there's no alternative for is living someone else's vision of your life instead of your own. A young man asks, how do you know when to keep trying to repair family relationships versus when to walk away? You can maintain love from a distance while protecting yourself from dysfunction. I hope my family will someday be ready for a relationship based on who I actually am, but I'm not waiting for that to happen before I live my life. After the presentation, dozens of students approach with their own stories of family resistance to their educational goals. I exchanged contact information with several, promising to connect them with the support programs we've developed. The drive back to Chicago gives me time to process the day's emotions. Returning to Cedar Rapids didn't bring the closure I expected. It brought something better. It confirmed that I've become exactly who I was meant to be, regardless of where I started or who opposed my journey. As I conclude this story, I want to leave you with the questions that transformed my understanding of family, success, and self-worth. When does family loyalty become self-betrayal? In my experience, the moment you're expected to sacrifice your authentic self to maintain someone else's comfort, the relationship has become toxic. How do you distinguish between people who love you and people who love controlling you? Simple. People who love you want you to grow even when that growth leads you away from them. People who want to control you demand that you stay small to make them comfortable. Is it possible to maintain relationships with people who actively undermine your happiness? Sometimes, but only with rigid boundaries and the understanding that their approval isn't necessary for your success. The question I ask you is this: what would you choose if forced to pick between being loved for who you pretend to be versus being respected for who you really are? For me, authenticity won over approval every time. I chose growth over comfort, my chosen family over my biological one, my future over my past. It was terrifying and painful and absolutely necessary. Because here's what I learned. You can't make people proud of achievements they don't understand, but you can build a life that makes you proud of yourself. External validation is wonderful when it comes, but it can't be the foundation of your self-worth. Your life belongs to you. Your achievements are yours to celebrate. Your future is yours to build. Don't let anyone, even family, convince you that pursuing your dreams is selfish or wrong. The girl who graduated from Northwestern 18 months ago thought success meant getting everyone's approval. The woman I've become knows that real success is living authentically, regardless of who understands or supports that authenticity. My family stole my graduation invitations, but they couldn't steal my graduation. They tried to sabotage my celebration, but they couldn't sabotage my achievement. Most importantly, they couldn't stop me from becoming who I was meant to be.
Sometimes the greatest gift toxic people give you is showing you exactly who you don't want to become. Use that clarity, build something better, and never, ever apologize for outgrowing the limitations others tried to place on you. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now, and hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.